जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शिष्य डिवैन ग्रेस अरविंद जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की नित्य लीला प्रविष्ठा जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today we're going to be reading from chapter 4, Canto 4, chapter 13th and verse number 24. The descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So, okay, let's do the verse. Etad akhyahi me brahman sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittama Etad akhyahi me brahman Sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittama Etadakhyahi me brahman Sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittama. Take it away. Etadakhyahi me brahma Sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Etadakhyahi me brahma Sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya Tvam paravara vittama. Ladies, please. Etadakhyahi me brahma Sunitatmaja cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittama. Etadakhyahi me brahma cheshtitam Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara. Very good. Etad, all these akhyahi. Please describe. Me, unto me. I mean, you'll obviously clearly notice there, me and me, exactly same words, Sanskrit and English. Brahman, O great Brahmana. Brahman is interesting because usually if you're in the East or in the West, the image that comes to your mind when you think of a Brahman is this, long-robed, some kind of priest in a South Indian or a North Indian temples. That's the image that comes into mind, doesn't it? Vijay Gaurang, is it, you think? But actually, when you go to the etymology, Brahman doesn't mean, doesn't got nothing to do with a with a priest in a temple, or I mean, maybe a little bit if he's qualified, of course. But bhr in Sanskrit comes from, it's a root of something vast, expansive knowledge, experiential knowledge. Bhr means vast. So Brahmana is someone who holds this vast, expansive, experiential knowledge. And that's why there's always a difference between jnana and vijnana. When you're reading Bhagavatam carefully, or Gita, doesn't matter, Prabhupada is always making a strong and distinction between jnana and vijnana. So jnana is knowledge obviously, vi is distinctive knowledge, experience distinctive knowledge. So Brahmana doesn't have to be some guy in South Indian temple with long robes and circling some fires around the temple. But Brahmana is anybody who is happy to welcome a vast experiential knowledge, vast experiential epistemology. He is happy to accept it. And he is happy without envy to relay it to the others. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Greek, you could be in North America, you could be an Aborigine, you could be whatever, Pablo, Espanol, see? So you could be anything. Brahmana is not that. Brahmana is someone who is pleasingly accepting vast amount of experiential knowledge. Big difference, doesn't it? Now it turns it. Otherwise we hold this, the South Indian temple, Brahmana, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Can you explain this to me? It's not like that. It's not like one who can deliver some exotic Sanskrit statements and just some exotic fire sacrifices. No, it's not like that. So we have to somehow regress back into the original applications of these terms. It's a great science on its own. It's called phenology. It's a great science just on its own, just to regress back to the originality of these terms. Because through time, we are bombarded with images, symbols, and then we're stuck in it. Does that make sense? Okay. There's a lot of purport within just word to words and the translation. Prabhupada is a genius. He's an absolute pristine genius. Because someone wrote to me the other day saying, is there any other Bhagavad Gita? Not so many people write, not just one. There's always, because I'm distributing books, they're always asking how to approach our audience. Prabhupada Gita, bit strong. So what I say is, I admit that. I'm not refuting that. I'm not saying I'm not stupid. I understand that you're very hardly trying to tailor for your audience. I understand that. So if you can tailor something along with Prabhupada books, usually I chip in Hiding in a Natural Happiness or a guide to Gita. And they were asking, and a lot of people ask me, anyway, I won't name the names of the books, because I don't like naming and shaming, but there are quite a few books out there in the market. And I say the problem is this. Sutta Goswami confirms right in the beginning of Bhagavatam. He says, Yatha dhitam yatha mati. I'm going to speak this Bhagavatam yatha dhitam yatha mati. So he says yatha dhitam, as I have heard from the tradition, but yatha mati. I'm going to include my surrounding observations. Yatha mati, yatha dhitam is as it been dictated. Yatha mati is that I'm going to include my surrounding observations. Why not? From someone like Sutta Goswami. You want to miss out on that? You seriously want to miss out on that? No. So there is this, so yes, we have to try, there's a fine balance. On one hand, we have to try to tailor the audience. You know, some people come and take books with me from me to give it to their employees at work. But when it's like, Krishna is the God, Krishna, even George Harrison, a day before his foreword for Krishna book was delivered, the night before, they had this strong argument with Shyamasundar Das. Nah, I want to include this Vivekananda Swami in there. And Shyamasundar Das said, nah. And Prabhupada, he writes a letter to Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, nah, I'd rather delete the whole thing forward than include Vivekananda in there. No offense to Vivekananda if anybody is following in the ether land there. No offense, I'm just pointing out. Because it's apasampradaya, it becomes a rasabhasa. You heard of rasabhasa? If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you should know exactly what it means, where it's taking us. So Prabhupada says, nah, I'd rather delete the whole forward than do that. And why? Because George Harrison says, I can't accept a person Krishna, a person God. It's not, can't do it. So, which is the reason, I'll explain all this later a little bit in the purport, but what I'm trying to say is yatha ditam yathamati. We have to somehow regress back to the original vision of these terms. Original vision of these terms. Not the completely contaminated, obstructed, Indianized or Hinduized versions of it. The original vision was Brahman, expansive experiential knowledge. The Aryans. So I always tell to people when they're taking Gita, I always tell them, there's a difference between Bharat as a land and there's a difference between Bharat as a consciousness. The day you understand that there's a big difference between Bharat as limited to the land, but Bharat as a consciousness, then you see Gita and Krishna completely differently. No more dogma, no more doctrines. You have a new vision. And every day, if you're not getting a new vision of Krishna, we have a problem. Even Yamunacharya says, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yadavadi mama Krishna chitta padaravinda navanava rasadhama rantumasi tadavadi batanari sangamanu smaryamana bhavati mukana srishtu vishtina. So every day if you are not experiencing these deeper levels of Krishna, these deeper realizations of Krishna, to these original visions, you're missing out. I urge you, please don't miss out on this deeper dives into Krishna. It never ends. Okay, I'll move on. Where was I? Sunita Atmaja, of the son of Sunita. Veno Cheshtitam. Activities. Shraddhadanaya, faithful bhaktaya, unto your devotee. Tvam, you, paravara, with past and future. Vittama, well conversant. Both of those paravara and vittama come into English, but I won't bore you with my linguistics some other time. Okay, please, let's go call and response. Vidura requested Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, you are well conversant with all subjects, both past and future. Therefore, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. I am your faithful devotee. So please explain to me this. So we are at a part where Dhruva's lines are being described. I've already mentioned a few times that I personally think it's just not limited to the planet Earth, this round globe here, because Dhruva's grandfather Manu had a sovereignty the whole planetary system, as you see in the NASA pictures, the rotating disk. And obviously what happens is when they have so many progeny, when they have sons and grandsons, they're all allocating to different parts of the universe. So some of this chain of command was allocated to planet Earth. So which is the reason Prithu Maharaj was allocated to planet Earth. So what we are doing is we are going into Prithu Maharaj's dynastical illustrations. But before that, we're just getting a glimpse of what happened before Prithu actually came. What is the status of this earth before Prithu came? So the status of this earth was that there was King Anga, who was very pious, but there was some, okay, I'm trying to choose a good word. Adulteration maybe? I don't know. Is that a good word? The priests say that there was some kind of sinful adulteration in his previous lives, and he was not able to get a son. A son is a big thing for kings. A son is a big thing. Why? The more the better. Not just son is a big thing, the more the better. Why? Because they have to go to war, they get killed. As long as they're not killing themselves. So what happens is, they need a lot of sons, kshatriyas, which is the reason they have so many times you'll see they have lots of wives. So if anybody here trying to go into grihastha ashram brahmachari is transforming, I'm not licensing you to have a few options there. What I'm trying to say is kshatriyas were allowed to do that because they needed a lot of sons. So here we have Anga who didn't have even one. So the priests were trying to comment, there was some anomaly, some adulteration in your previous life, so that's affecting you now. So there's three ways from Vedic perspective, Aryan perspective, there are three ways you can have a son. There's three ways, okay? One is seminal, bloodline, seminal, okay? You understand that, I don't need to be gross about it. Seminal, so which comes from semen. The second is a yagnik son. By yagna, by offering oblations to the higher beings up in the celestial realms, you get a progeny, accept a progeny. That's Dasharatha did. That's exactly what Anga is going to do. And the third way to accept a son is by Dvija, by making him twice born, a guru. A guru is a father. I mean, that doesn't mean we sentimentally load him and, write our notes to him and saying, when I see you, I remember my dad, the way he cuddled me. No. The way he cuddled me and kissed me when he said goodbye. No, we don't load our Gurudevs with all this baggage that we bring from our families. That's not the point. The point is, that's what happens most of the time, doesn't it? We load our Gurudevs with when I see you, I just lost my father, but when I saw you, now I don't, feel the separation of my father. No. Please feel the separation of your father. Guru is Guru. Guru is there to instruct you. Okay? And do what he says. Do as he says and what he says. Bona fide gurus. Okay? Not any dumb wits out there. So where was I? Okay, I was trying to explain three ways to get son. So there was three. Anybody remembers the three ways to accept a son? Let's do this. 1, seminal. 2, yagya. 3, dvija, by accident. Very good. Okay. You never go without a reward. You never go without a reward in Radha Krishna temple. So, and what happens is Anga is trying the second way. King Anga is trying the second way. The second way is obtaining a son from Yajna. He did, but there was still an anomaly and he he received a funny son. And in one way he was good and he was bad. One way that if you don't if you're a bad referee in his sport, he'd just slit your throat. Not very extreme things. Just he'd just chop your head off, kind of guy. So not very extreme, just day-to-day things. So, and the other part of it is he was such a commander that people scared to their pants to do anything wrong, to do any mistakes in his kingdom. It's a bit like, I don't know, Napoleon Bonaparte, something like that. Comes to your mind? Ishwara. Like, you wouldn't want to mess with Napoleon in his kingdom, would you? I mean, Louis the 16th. I mean, you wouldn't want to cross lines with Louis the 16th. The next morning, it literally takes 45 minutes before you are under the guillotine. And then the head is flying like a baseball. So there's one thing, and there's this other extreme that he just simple things. That if you're a bad referee, he's playing cricket and it wasn't really plumb, and you put your finger up, he'd chop your head and then cut your finger. so simple things like that. So there was a problem. Okay, so we need to understand, the most important thing is we need to understand Vidura's mood here. So I'm going to introduce a very interesting topic called Foundations of Knowledge. So I'm going to read the purport because one of my very, very dear, close friends and brothers to my heart loves me to read the purport first. So I'm going to do that. Is it okay? Vidura accepted Maitreya as his spiritual master. A disciple always inquires from the spiritual master, and the spiritual master answers the question, provided the disciple is very gentle and devoted. It's not like you go to the spiritual master and ask him, like, what's the odds against Manchester against Arsenal or something. It's not like that. Like every single thing that you're curious about, you text him and message him. No, what's the odds against, what's the odds against the 49ers against the New Yorkers? No, that's not what spiritual mastery is for. Or sometimes just curiously just load whatever you read in the media and demonize the world, and this world is becoming so demonized, Gurudev. I heard this at the latest announcement from the scientific world, and they're all so demonized. No, that's not the point. The point is gentle inquiry that will help you in progressing in your spiritual life. That's what you do with a spiritual master. Sorry, I use sometimes some strong words, but what I'm trying to say is, we don't talk gibberish. Okay, we don't talk with a gibberish. And spiritual masters know this. We think, okay, they're all, playing soft and all. They know this. They understand when we talk gibberish, but because of their big heart, they listen to it. So this is to inquire generally, genuinely, specifically, that will actually motivate you in your life. And this is where we come to what's called foundations of knowledge. Yeah, I'm going to explain foundations of knowledge after this. So, where did I stop? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Yasya prasada bhagavad prasada, obviously. The spiritual master is not inclined to disclose all the secrets of transcendental science unless the disciple is very submissive and devoted. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the process of receiving knowledge from the spiritual master entails submission, inquiry, and service. So what this brings us in our modern world is called foundations of knowledge. You ever heard that, Vijay Gaurang? No? So I still remember you as Mark in the olden days. I remember when we were jumping here in your brahmacharya. You're so skinny, and I used to sit next to you and have prasadam, and I think, How is he so skinny after that? You're still the same. So, and Atmaram Prabhu used to do Gita classes, remember that? The corner here. Anyway, Guru Shakti Das, remember that? He's in where? Anyway, so what happened, we'll talk later. So what happens is these foundations of knowledge. So there's usually in the academics the foundations of knowledge divided into three divisions. Number one is empirical. Empirically is you go out with your senses, with your instruments, with your apparatus, and you experience and you exposed, and it's called a controlled experiment. But there is a problem. What's the problem? That's correct, but there's something on the other side of the game. I'm talking about, of course, that's the serving part of Roger Federer. Say again? Yeah, you're coming very close. What I want to say is a priori. A priori means even before philosophizing something, it's right hitting on your face. And that a priori is that it's a controlled experiment, which means you can only experience and test and prove something that you can control. But when you only limit your knowledge, when you only limit your foundations to something only that you can control, what are you missing out on? There are so many things that are out of our control. That's why this whole metaphysical department. So many things out of our control. It's called metaphysics, beyond physics. Values, judgments, loves, equality, justice. How do you empirically prove it? How do you empirically prove yesterday? It's only in your experience. You can't empirically test it. You understand? So there's so many things by default, by just the ground rules, it's a controlled experiment. So what means is, if you take, it's like, I'll give you an example to understand, okay? Examples are better than just talking. If I say, my dear friend Bhava Vibhushana, you go and tell me what's outside in this world. What are the physical elements outside in this world? And I give him a thermometer. So he goes around and he actually doesn't do anything. He'll distribute books anyway. But he comes back to me with the thermometer and says, Radhika Prasad, I did your experiment. I said, no, you didn't. You were distributing books. And then he comes back and he says, it's all temperature out there. Wait a minute. And then he says to me, wait a minute, Radhika Prasad, you made me do a controlled experiment and I'm coming back with temperature. But is it only temperature out there? No, much more than that. So when one, you have a controlled experiment, one, you're providing a defined instruments that have a very limited scope of what it brings to your senses. Do you see what I'm saying? So empirical knowledge, by its ground rules, by its analytical ground rules, can never give you the complete picture of reality. I've been screaming out of my lungs. I do some scientific forums and papers and things like that for ISKCON. It's called a department called Bhaktivedanta Institute of Higher Studies, and I scream out of my lungs. The problem is, by the ground rules you have established, by the analytical ground rules, you are limited to things that you can control. You are limited to things of your instruments, of your apparatus. And what brings that to you? What about things that are out of your domain of your instruments? What about that? No. If you don't talk that, because do you like your career? Yes, I do. So you better stick to our ground rules. You like your career? You still want to continue being a scientist? You want to be in our group? Okay, you better stick to our ground rules. You understand? That's how it works. I'm not kidding. That's how it works. You better stick to the ethos of these complete left field scientific scenarios. If you love your career and you want to bring home the bread and butter to your children and wife. You want to lose your reputation? Start talking about metaphysics, celestial realms. Yeah, go for it. Talk about God, Krishna. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll just cancel you and give you a flick. Which one would you do if you're a married guy with 4 children and need to pay your mortgage? What would you do? Stick to the ground rules. It's a big risk. You understand what I'm trying to say? So this is the problem with the empirical. The next is philosophical. But you have problem with philosophy. So there is an aphorism in Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra. It's called Tarko Apratishta Anyatha Anumeyam. So I think 2.1.11 Brahma Sutra, 2.1.11 or 2.11.1. Just mix and match them around and you'll get it. It's called Tarko Pratishtha Anyatha Anumeyam. What happens is, philosophers are divided into two strong groups. One is theological philosophers and the other is atheistic philosophers. Now, atheistic philosophers they have a very low standard for proving themselves. But theistic philosophers, they have a very high bar to prove themselves right. Why? Why? I asked one of the atheistic philosophers one day. We were talking about epistemology, and he said, how do you prove God, or how do you prove the statements of Bhagavad Gita, or the Bible, how the Dead Sea is split? How do you prove that? I said, this is the problem. Okay, what did I say? Supernatural. The problem is that you are strictly you strictly formulate these black and white rules of what is natural and what is supernatural. You strictly divide these two. And then you say, okay, that is supernatural. God splitting the Dead Sea for Moses. That's supernatural. No, we can't admit that. We can't agree to that. No, this is the problem. The problem we have between the philosophers and the theological philosophers and the atheistic philosophers is that they won't allow you to speak anything supernatural. Now you have to stick to our ground rules. Our ground rules are that we have to stick with the policy assuming that there is no divine intervention. This is not a directed evolution. This is not a directed world. You have to listen to them. As soon as you say it's directed, as soon as you say, okay, there is a divine intervention, no. So you have this competing, in the philosophy world, the problem you have these competing problems. Or, at the best, they will give you a discount. Here is a discounted price. The discounted price is, stick with a God that's not a person. Then some conscious blob out there, some conscious little corporal blob out there. He doesn't have a personality, he cannot come to this world, he cannot interact with this world. This is the problem you have. So you have to stick with this. And as soon as you bring a personal, theological, supreme God who actually can interact, who actually come, who can actually talk, who can lift a mountain on his pinky, we are embarrassed, aren't we? I mean, come on. Even we are devotees and disciples, there is two kinds of theologists. One is philosophically we are a theist, but psychologically we become an atheist. Think about this very carefully. Philosophically, we may be atheist. We have accepted a guru, we have accepted a spiritual tradition, but psychologically, we are an atheist. Why? Why, Vijay Gurang? Philosophically, we are atheist, right? You were in the brahmachari ashram, you took initiation, you still have nice Facebook illustrations, you're trying your best. But what happens is, because we are getting bombarded from this outside world, and we are forced with this strong inertia to be psychologically an atheist. You only live once, and you have to make most out of it. And the whole day from 9 to 5 is a pursuit of that. Yes or yes, Naira? The whole day, this is the pursuit. Is that we are trying our best, to make the most out of the consuming resources that we have. Make the best out of our job, make the best out of our money, make the best out of our holidays. Even in holidays we are anxious. I come from holiday, you missed out on that? And then I'm like, oh God, I just spent $30,000. And then you come back and someone has already been to this place. You missed out on the Blue Lagoon in Vanuatu. What a loser. And I'm like, oh God. You have to make the most out of it even on holidays. You have to make most out of it when you're at job. You have to make most out of it when you're in the shopping mall. Did you get the right optimized value for your credit card? You're living in this anxiety. Did your team win the test cricket? This is an anxiety, isn't it? India is getting torched by Australians at the moment in the test cricket. We live in anxiety, don't we? We have to make the most out of it. We have this chance to prove. But that is a kind of an atheistic life. So philosophically, we may have accepted a guru. Philosophically, we may have accepted a tradition. Philosophically, we read the whole Bhagavad Gita inside out 50 times, 60 times. But we have to interact in the world outside who's teaching you to make the most out of it. You got one shot. And if you don't get it, bull's eye. You got to get it bull's eye. You don't get it bull's eye, you are a loser. Big loser. This is what we are facing every day. We're facing this in sports. We're facing this in libraries. We're facing this in universities. We face that in shopping malls. We face that in churches and temples. What is your position? Do you have a position in the temple? A designated position? I distribute books. I actually had one of the disciples who now kind of left Krishna consciousness. What do you do, Prabhu? You just distribute books. I said, yeah, I just distribute books. Well, that's all, right? You're nothing. You just distribute books, that's all. You're nothing. That creeps into even our devotional lives. You don't have a designation, you don't have a position in the church, in the temple, you're not in the board of the executive committee or the board of directors of the church. What a loser. Or you just distribute books, standing on the stalls at the railway stations. What a loser. This is atheistic. This is psychological atheism. I'm screaming out of my lungs. This is psychological atheism. You could be philosophically atheist, but psychologically you're an atheist. This is the problem we are facing. And we are embarrassed. We are embarrassed to tell that our God is a God who can lift a pinky, a big mountain on his pinky and hold it for 7 days on his left hand. And then he goes and dances in the nights with the married and unmarried girls. And he can just, this gigantic bird, he can just hold it and, break the beaks and kill it in a minute. And, oh God, he dances. He does a little dance show on a silky serpenthood. Now how are you going to tell this to your friends at work? Oh God. How are you going to do this at work with your friends? Wait a minute, what are you saying? Yeah, there was a big serpent with multi-hoods, like hundreds of hoods. And then this God actually gets up, he's only 7 years, he gets up, he jumps on the hoods, and he's doing a little spiritual Michael Jackson show on the silky hoods of the serpents. Oh, how embarrassed are we to tell this? How embarrassed are we? And he lifts up a whole Govardhana on his pinky for 7 days. Huh? We're supposed to discuss all this with our work friends and socialize with others. Embarrassing, isn't it? But why? But why this bias? There are 4 problems with this. I don't have any problem. I discuss this just like with my friends, with work friends when I was working. Before I was kicked out. No, I wasn't kicked out. No, I voluntarily left. I didn't get kicked out, okay? Maybe I was. Maybe all that, dancing Krishna on the hoods, they said, give this guy a flick. It's too esoterical for us, exotic. So maybe that's why anyway, no, I didn't. I'm just joking. So what happens is we're embarrassed to talk about these flying mountains in Bhagavatam. Can you explain flying mountains, Bhagavatam, to your childhood high school friends? Would you of course, if it's a close knit, he understands your feelings, you're like soulmates, you would. But would you generally get up and talk with your friends? No, we wouldn't, would we? Why? I want to give you some help to talk about this boldly. Don't be embarrassed. You like to hear a few clues? Yeah? Put your hands up. Who wants to hear some clues? Number one problem is the people who are making you feel embarrassed have classified a few. Did you put your hand up, Vijayakaran? You did, okay. Sorry, I missed out. So we have classified our experiences into this box of natural, and we've classified these experiences into a box called supernatural. But they're not so black and white. If you really carefully study the so-called natural biological functions, the so-called natural physical laws, there is, I'll just take you one example, the DNA strand, okay, the DNA digital codes. When you really closely observe it, they're not just information, they're conveying instructions. Just one simple example. Take your DNA code, which cannot be held by your household PC computer. It needs a much more large storage. Did you know that there's always an error handling program and there is some kind of directed evolution going on? It's not just storing information, it's conveying instructions all the time. Now, can you really call this natural? So, what we call supernatural, yes. Yeah, I was going. So, for example, what we call natural functions of biology, they say, evolution, for example. Yeah? Just some molecules and cells getting together into this dirty soup and just evolving directly. That's the natural explanation of things. But what they won't tell you is this: that in this so-called DNA strand, in this so-called digital code, there is an inherent, inbuilt error handling mechanism which is eliminating and deleting unwanted chemicals and information. Is that really natural now? Is it really natural? How can you call it natural? So what you call natural is actually a little nano interval between two big supernaturals. So as soon as you hear Krishna danced on the hoods of the serpent, this is supernatural. How can he do that? Why can't he do that? If Michael Jackson didn't do moonwalking, if Michael Jackson can do moonwalking and make it look like he's walking forward but he's actually going backwards, if Michael Jackson can do that, why can't a person who holds consciousness in his fist, in his round bald fist, why can't he dance on the multi-hooded silky serpent heads? Why such a black and white rule between natural and supernatural? You understand what I'm trying to say? That's the problem. This is one problem, natural and... Second problem is that you're assuming that the physical laws just are consistent and it has to be the way you think it should be. Mountains cannot fly. That's it, dead set. Why? Because you're assuming that physical laws are exactly the same at all times, all circumstances, all places, all planets. But why? Why this prejudice? Why this bias, Vijay Gurang? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Mountains cannot fly. Why? Because you're assuming that physical laws have to be consistent everywhere in this whole galaxy. Why? Come on, come on. Exactly my point. So it's because I used to think that like literally a mountain sort of. Exactly my point. Exactly. Who can pass it to me? No. Can you pass it to me? Kamsari, he does the best catch. No, you do. So there could be so many things going on. Physical laws could be completely different to what we experience. Or they could be yogis who are flying like mountains. Or they could be yogis that are coming down and falling down like mountains. There could be so many things happening. Why are you so stuck that physical laws has to be consistent here, moon, Mars, everywhere the same? That's the problem. You understand? So I gave you what, two? Exactly, super. And the other problem we have is that as theists, we have to worry about illogical statements, not supernatural statements. If I say, Kamsari Sendas, I saw a round square, you can say, what an idiot. Because why? If you know what round is, and if you know what the definition of square is, there couldn't be a round square. It's an illogical statement. Or I say, you are a married bachelor. You'll throw this cup at my face. You're a married bachelor. Does that make sense? No, because you know what married is, you know what bachelor is. There is no such thing as married bachelor. Those are the words, those are things that we have to worry. But not supernatural things. Supernatural is fine. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So one, you're assuming that physical laws will work exactly the same everywhere. Two, you put this natural and supernatural in two boxes, and as soon as you have to tell that there is a Krishna who can lift mountains on his pinky for 7 days straight, embarrassing to talk to your work friends. And the third, what was the third? Huh? No, I said third. No, logical statements. You have to worry about illogical statement, not supernatural statements. If I call you a married bachelor, get seriously concerned about my mental health. If I call Bhava Vibhushan, Aishwarya Das, you are very good married bachelors, you get seriously concerned about my mental health. That's what you need to be worried about. Fourth is called problem of induction. Problem of induction is that you're inducing by repeatedly seeing something every day. I'll give an example. You go to a restaurant. You see a lot of people lining up in front of your restaurant, in front of that restaurant. What do you infer? Must be a good cook, right? Like Mark. Remember Mark? So you say must be a good cook because this used to be full. Like you couldn't drop a sand. We used to eat here, remember? In here, and then they changed it afterwards. But we were eating here, in here. So you couldn't drop a sand. Why? Because you know it's a good cook. Because you've inducted it every day. But the problem of induction is saying it's not necessarily the case most of the times. Because I knew a restaurant, it's called Zach's Restaurant in Pennant Hills, not an advertisement. I don't know him. He doesn't pay me. I'm just giving you as an example. My wife and I we used to be in Pennant Hills for some time, 3 or 4 years. We used to walk and it was always not many people. And I said to my wife, let's try it one day. And my wife and walked in there. Beautiful food. Like, damn. And there was nobody out in there. And even the water he gave me was like, what did you put in here? It's addictive. I hope there's no alcohol. No. Addictive water. It's like drop dead gorgeous, like three coats. What did you do? Do you understand? There's a problem of induction. You experience something every day and you think that has to be the case every day. But the Zach's restaurants proved me wrong. I'm telling you, he didn't pay me for telling his name. Just throwing it out there. So I'm just giving you, so we have 4 here, right? So when you put this, now, when you really think, please go and meditate when you're at home tonight, tomorrow, whenever you get it. Please meditate on these 4 things. I assure you, the embarrassment to talk about Krishna dancing on the hoods of a serpent, Krishna picking up a Govardhan hill on his pinky for 7 days, Krishna killing, Balram killing a Pralambasura who was like 2,000 times larger than him, so to speak, physically, or flying Dhenukasura over the Talavan trees, you won't be embarrassed anymore. Is that helpful, Vijay Guranga, the 4 things that I just mentioned? That's the problem. So tarko pratishto shrutaya vibhinnam. So the 3rd process, foundation of knowledge. So we discussed the first foundation of knowledge, which was empirical. Then we discussed the second foundation of knowledge, which is philosophical. But the problem we have is there's this strong division of theistic philosophers and atheistic philosophers. And we could be psychologically we could be philosophically atheist, but psychologically we could be an atheist. That's another problem. And we're embarrassed to talk about this God who split seas to get the Jews out of, to the promised land, out of the Egypt, Pharaoh's land. Embarrassing, isn't it, to tell people that? But why? I don't have any problem. What's the problem? You're seeing tides every day when you go to the ocean. A little bigger tide. If there's small tide, there's a big tide. What's the big deal? What's the problem with you guys? I don't understand. So this is the problem we have. We are embarrassed to talk about a God who's danced on hundreds of serpents of a silky, serpent. Embarrassed. Talk about flying mountains. Embarrassed, aren't we? So we have to come into terms with these things. Be bold. Yes. He's a person, he can do it. Why? Why can you be a person and he can't be a person? Why so much envy for God? It's envy. It's envy. You don't want God to be a person. It's envy. Envy. Don't envy God. Atmaha no jana. Atma jana. So, eke jana atmaha. In Ishopanishad, it's Asrum Lokamapanna, Moda Janmani Janmani, Mahaprabhu. No, sorry, in Bhagavad Gita. Asurya Nama Lokate Tesmin, he says, Eke Atma Jana. So, so this is envy, Atma Jana. You're killing your soul like this. God consciousness and your soul consciousness go parallelly. It's not one or the other. They go parallelly. So, if you're releasing Atma and you're not realizing the supernatural power of Krishna to be able to dance on the silky heads of hundreds of hoods of Kaliya, to be able to pick up Govardhan on his pinky for 7 days, and you're embarrassed to talk about these things, you really need to think this through. Please listen to my 4 points again, 100 times if you have to. But be bold. Get to the center stage. Ask challenging questions. If consciousness, I was talking to Kamsari yesterday, if consciousness is running this world, why cannot consciousness have its own world? Why not, Vijay Guranga? Why not? Be bold. Yes, as a body, as long as we're carrying a body, there will be some prejudices. I'm not saying that you can just burst out of it in a minute. There are some prejudices. It's okay. Understand that it's just limited to your body, but there is much more much more things going out of your body. If you just even theoretically accept this, and theoretically say, okay, there is maybe another dimension where consciousness is primary and matter is derivative. I'll repeat it. There is maybe another angle, another foundation of knowledge where consciousness is primary and matter is derivative. If consciousness is running this world, why cannot consciousness have its own world? That we very lovely call Goloka Vrindavana. Why not? That's my contention. Why should we be so embarrassed by these educational systems, by these political systems, by these judicial systems, by these parental systems, by this bombarding media? Why should we be so embarrassed to talk this boldly? We don't have to be. Build some courage. Challenge them. Just say why. That's what they do to you. They don't need to come up with any explanations to say like that. Okay, I really have to control my language. And stupid idiot. Dawkins. Okay, God is a delusion. But prove to me. Can you prove to me that there is no God? I ask this all the time. You saying prove to me there is God. I'm saying prove to me there is no God. How can you do that? You can't. This leads into what's called Pascal wager, but we'll talk some other time, maybe in another Bhagavatam class. Just remind me, if you are interested and curious, just remind me. Radhika Prasad, you talked about Pascal's wager in the last Bhagavatam class. Could you please elaborate? It's called Pascal's wager. Yeah? Occam's razor, Pascal's wager. Please, parsimony. Okay. Okay. Don't throw things at me now. So just remind me next time. You said something like Pascal's wager and Occam's razor and parsimony in the last Bhagavatam class. Could you please elaborate and elaborate it? But that's where we are going, which is a very, very interesting, juicy, beautiful philosophy, theology. So be bold, I urge you. Did I read the purport? I did this time. Okay. Yeah, I was going to. I said that. Third is tarko pratishtha anyadha anumeya. So logic is never concluding, right? So this is where we have to go to Mahabharata. tarko pratishto shrutaya vibhinna nasam rishim yasya matam na bhinna dharma hitatvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasa pantha. The third process is self-revealed knowledge. Krishna dawns over you. It's like you wake up from a dream and in a split second you make a difference. That dream world was different to the world that you woke up to. Don't you, Bhava? Or maybe my wife always tells me, you still sleep. Apparently she hears me talk in my sleep. And she says, she sometimes asks me, why are you talking in your sleep? Can you make a difference sometimes between both? Shut up. No. So you make a difference in split second. So just like this world is dawning over you after your dream, in the same way, Krishna reveals, it's dharmohi tattvam nihita guhayam. Mahajana yena gathasa pantha. So it's revealed, it's treasured confidentially in the hearts of the Mahajana. You, what Prabhupada is saying, is with your submission, inquiry and service, you get that revealed to you. Who wants to be submissive? Who wants to do submissive devotional service? Where you don't get any name, where you don't get any fame, maybe actually get a shoe thrown at your face, get embarrassed in front of 1,000 people instead. Submissive service. Radhika Prasad, give us a fourth option for God's sake. Can you please come up with the fourth foundation of knowledge, because the third one doesn't appeal. Submissive service. But the submissive service will make you bold, make you courageous to talk boldly about your feelings. It's your personal feeling. And people make you embarrassed to share your personal feelings, Natasha. Isn't it? Why? Why should you be shamed and get embarrassed to share your personal intuitions and personal feelings? Why should we be so biased to you? There's no reason. There isn't one. Not a good one. You understand what I'm trying to say? So be bold. Follow this third method. It's really beautiful. Juicy, exotic, esoteric, beautiful results. Om Tat Sat. So any comments, corrections, rectifications? Yes, please. Oh my God. You are amazing, Ravi. You are amazing. But that calls a... Can you remind me in the next class? Maybe what you could do is read 1.5.22 Bhagavatam purport and 4.5.83. Don't ask me why I remember all these things, because I'm a very, very boring nerd. 1.5.22, 4.8.53 and 5.4. Or just, okay, if I'm getting the 4.8 wrong, where Narada is instructing Dhruva Maharaj devotional service, but he keeps telling you have to do it according to place, time and circumstances. And Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport there. So it's either 4.84, I don't know. But go to the chapter where Narada is instructing obstructs Dhruva Maharaj, intervenes into Dhruva Maharaj's path to the forest, and he is instructing about the Desha Kala Patra. And 1.5.22, I'm definitely 100% sure. Prabhupada talks about how all the faculties of knowledge, so-called foundations of knowledge we have now, can be applied in Krishna consciousness. So be bold. Don't let the dogmas and doctrines dumb you down. Thinking is prohibited. What did I just catch you thinking, Kamsari said? Oh God. you're cancelled. You know what I'm saying? You want to live in a culture like this? That's absurd. That's obsolete. That's gibberish. That's disgusting, ridiculous to make you feel like that. Make you feel guilty for thinking. That's disgusting, ridiculous. So be bold. Talk boldly about your personal intuitions, personal thoughts, personal feelings. Be bold. You understand what I'm trying to say? So go the third way. It's like Buddha. Om Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. I'm giving you the third way, the middle way, the Buddha way. Okay? Om Sangam Jnanam Sangam Gacchami. Anyway. Yeah, there was a lady actually. Oh, thank you, sir. Okay, you want a Sankirtan? There was a lady that came to me. She said to me that her daughter. Okay, I will. Sankirtan is always good. The daughter comes to her and she asked the mother that Krishna. In a positive way, not criticizing. Krishna mom is out of science. She said that to his mother, and her mother came to me. Just Sunday. Saturday. Sorry, Saturday. She said to me. She knows my name by now because she's visited a few times. Because that girl took books from me. So she read the books now. And she's coming to her mother and converting her mothers to all these teenagers are meeting and converting their parents into Hare Krishnas now. Radhika Prasad. So the girl comes and says to the mother, Krishna is actually beyond science, mother, beyond science. And her mother comes to me and asks, what are you teaching my daughter? What's the matter with you, Radhika Prasad? Why are you killing us like this? I said, what? No. Please stop. Please don't hate her for that. What she's trying to say is she's trying to say that Krishna is beyond unaided science. Krishna is beyond undirected and unaided senses. But the third way that I explained to you is talking about submissive, humble, servicing inquiry to a guru, a spiritual master who will help as a torch medium, via medium, up what do you call? Up, down, not bottom up, down, descending process. Thank you very much. I don't have any more garlands. So the descending process and a revelation, revealed knowledge. Just as when you wake up from the dream, the real world is over you, which you can't deny. So that's what your daughter is trying to say. And she was like, oh my God, I'm glad I spoke to you. I'm so glad. Now I'm not going to stop my daughter talk like this. So, you understand? So they're not going to stop their daughters talk like, they're not going to make their daughters and son feel embarrassed to say that Krishna is beyond science. Modern science, not science as an absolute, modern neo-Darwinistic science. That's what I have a problem with. Happy? Happy days? Okay, I just want to thank you for being here, and oh my God, one more boring epistemological class by Radhika Prasad. Someone get him out of here. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just a nerd. I just do theology and philosophy. That's what I am. So yeah, sorry guys. You got stuck with me for an hour. Thank you at all your feet and with all my prostrated obeisances to you. Thanks for being here and listening to my dodgy explanations of such a nice purport. Okay, let's say Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki, Saraswati Thakur ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Okay, I better.